Your mind is not your own right now. It is pulled in a dozen directions by every headline, notification, and nagging worry. This scattered feeling is not a personal failing. It is a modern epidemic of lost focus. But there is an ancient remedy, a kind of operating system for the mind that has been tested for over 2,000 years. It is called Stoicism, and it is far more than dusty philosophy. It is a set of practical tools for mental sovereignty. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it plainly when he said, "Our power lies not in external events, but in our judgments about them." By the end of this exploration, you will have 25 specific Stoic tools to reprogram your automatic reactions and reclaim the focus that feels constantly under siege. How did a Roman emperor use a simple mental trick to shrink his daily anxieties down to size? And what does loving your fate have to do with finding peace in chaos? We are about to unpack a complete toolkit for a calmer, more focused mind. Which of your current reactions feels most in need of an upgrade? The first and most fundamental tool is learning to separate what is yours from what is not. This is the bedrock of Stoic practice, known as the Dichotomy of Control. It is a simple act of mental sorting that can instantly reduce the noise in your head and free up immense amounts of energy currently spent on worry. The Stoic teacher Epictetus began his famous handbook with this very point, stating that some things are up to us and some things are not. Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, these are within our power. Everything else, from the weather to another person's opinion to the stock market, is not. The anxiety we feel is almost always a sign that we are fighting in the wrong arena, pouring effort into trying to command the uncontrollable. Imagine two people stuck in the same traffic jam, both late for an important meeting. One person is white-knuckling the steering wheel, fuming at every red light, mentally rehearsing angry speeches to their boss, their heart racing with stress. Their focus is entirely on the traffic, which they cannot change. The other person takes a deep breath, accepts the traffic as a reality outside their control, and turns their attention inward. They use the time to rehearse their presentation calmly, or to listen to an audiobook, or simply to observe their own frustration without being consumed by it. Their focus is on their own response, which they can shape. The external situation is identical, but the internal experience is worlds apart. This is the power. Do not engage with the feeling just yet. Instead, initiate the zoom. Mentally pull back from the room, from the building, from the city. Imagine the vast sweep of history, the countless lives that have been part of this story, and the many more that will follow. See your own experience as a single, brief point on that immense timeline. What often happens is that the intense heat of the emotion begins to cool. The challenge does not disappear, but it is no longer an obstacle blocking your entire path. It becomes a manageable part of a much larger, more beautiful, and more mysterious picture. This regained perspective is pure oxygen for your focus, clearing away the haze of immediacy so you can see your next right step with calm clarity. But what about the things we fear might happen? We are often told to simply think positive, to push away any thought of difficulty. The Stoics took a radically different approach, one that at first seems counterintuitive but is incredibly powerful. Their third tool is called Premeditatio Malorum, the pre-contemplation of challenges. This is not about cultivating fear. It is a deliberate practice of thoughtful visualization, a mental rehearsal designed to build unshakable resilience and to strip the future of its power to shock us. The Stoic philosopher Seneca advised spending time each day contemplating the nature of our circumstances. He wrote that we must anticipate not only that all things might happen, but that they will happen. In this way, you soften the blows of circumstance by foreseeing them. The goal is not to live in worry, but to remove its sting. By calmly considering what could occur, you accomplish two vital things. First, you develop a profound gratitude for the present moment, realizing that the smooth sailing you enjoy right now is not a guaranteed default, but a temporary gift. Second, and more practically, you prepare your response in advance. When you have already walked through a scenario in your mind, it loses its novelty and its power to overwhelm. You are no longer reacting in panic. You are executing a plan you have already considered. Let us apply this to a common modern concern, like preparing for a difficult conversation with a colleague. Instead of just worrying about it, you sit down for 5 minutes and consciously walk through a reasonable outcome. You imagine stating your point clearly and them reacting with defensiveness. You visualize yourself staying calm, listening, and then restating your position. You consider what you would do next if the conversation became strained. By doing this, you are not inviting conflict. You are preparing yourself against the paralysis of surprise. When you enter the actual conversation, your nervous system is calmer because the territory is familiar. You have already been here in your mind, and you know the path forward. This practice turns anxiety from a fog that obscures your focus into a map that clarifies it. If you do not record your thoughts, how can you ever hope to manage them? This is the core question behind the fourth tool, the Stoic practice of journaling. It is far more than a simple diary of daily events. For the Stoics, and most famously for the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, journaling was a philosophical mirror, a nightly audit of the mind. His private writings, which we now call the Meditations, were never intended for publication. They were his personal workshop where he examined his own judgments, corrected his impulses, and reinforced his principles. He was not writing to be profound, he was writing to become better. This is the key difference. The goal is not to create a perfect record, but to create a clearer self. Each evening you hold up a mirror to your day. You are not looking for flattery, you are looking for truth. You ask, where did my reactions come from? What small victory did I have over a habitual annoyance? Where did I slip into an old pattern of frustration? This process of reflection does something remarkable. It slows down the blur of experience and allows you to see the individual frames, the specific moments where your focus was pulled away by an automatic thought. It turns the rush of the day into information you can learn from. To start this practice yourself, you need no special book or elaborate system. The template is beautifully simple. Each night, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what did I do well today? This is not about grand achievements. It could be as simple as noticing you were about to become frustrated and choosing to pause instead. Acknowledge the small win. Second, what could I approach differently? Be gentle but honest. Did you lose time on a distraction when you meant to focus? Did you make an assumption about someone's intention? Third, and this is the most Stoic question, what unhelpful judgment did I make? This gets to the root. You were not upset because of the traffic. You were upset because you viewed the delay as a personal obstacle to your plan. By naming the judgment, you loosen its hold. This nightly ritual is not about self-criticism. It is about calibration. It is how you take the philosophical principles from your mind and weave them into your daily life, one examined evening at a time. Acceptance can sometimes feel like a quiet surrender, a heavy sigh as we resign ourselves to the inevitable. But what if there was a way to meet fate not with weary resignation, but with genuine enthusiasm? This is the leap from the fourth tool to the fifth, a move from examining our past to shaping our future attitude. It is called Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. While famously embraced by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, its heart is pure Stoicism. It is the decision to not merely accept what happens, but to love it, to see every event, especially the difficult ones, as necessary and even beneficial for your growth. Marcus Aurelius captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He saw his own challenges not as punishments but as fuel. Amor Fati transforms the obstacle from something in your way into the way itself. It is the ultimate reframe. Think of the last minor inconvenience that genuinely annoyed you. Perhaps you missed a train, spilling your coffee on a clean shirt, or received a piece of critical feedback that stung. The standard reaction is frustration, a sense that the universe is conspiring against your smooth day. Amor Fati asks a different question. What could this make possible? Missing that train forces a 10-minute wait on the platform, which becomes a rare moment of quiet to notice the sky or collect your thoughts before a busy meeting. The coffee stain shifts your focus from how you look to what you are about to say. That critical feedback, though uncomfortable, highlights a blind spot you can now address, making your next project stronger. This is not about pretending hardships are pleasant. It is about recognizing that within every event, especially the unwelcome ones, lies a seed of opportunity. The practice is to actively look for that seed. When something disrupts your plan, pause and ask, how can I use this? What hidden door might this be opening? This mindset does not eliminate challenge, but it completely changes your relationship to it. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as an active participant in a story where even the setbacks are essential plot points. Your focus shifts from what you have lost to what you might now gain, a powerful redirection of mental energy that turns resistance into momentum. Catch your next unhelpful thought and gently label it. This is not a complex philosophical exercise. It is a simple act of mental care, a tool modern psychology calls cognitive distancing, and the Stoics were among its earliest practitioners. They understood that we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of them. Epictetus put it clearly, stating that people are not troubled by things, but by the views they take of them. The traffic jam does not cause your frustration. Your judgment that this situation is unfair does. The technique is to create a small but powerful pause between the event and your reaction, a space where you can choose your response instead of being carried away by an automatic one. Here is how it works in real time. You are in a meeting and someone questions your idea. The immediate, strong surge of thought might be, they do not value my contributions. That thought feels true, it feels like reality. But if you practice cognitive distancing, you notice it. Internally, you reframe it. You say to yourself, I'm having the thought that they do not value my contributions. That small shift, adding those 5 words, I am having the thought that, creates an important separation. You are no longer fused with the judgment. You are now observing it as a passing mental event, a piece of information rather than a command. It is the difference between being in a storm and watching the storm clouds move by from a safe place. The feeling does not disappear, but its strength often lessens because you have broken the spell of immediacy. This creates the room for a more considered response, perhaps asking a clarifying question or simply noting the reaction without acting on it. Your focus, which was just consumed by a story of being overlooked, is now freed to return to the actual content of the meeting. This tool turns your mind from a chaotic reactor into a calm observatory. That pause between thought and reaction is where your true power resides, and the Stoics gave this critical space a name. It is called the Discipline of Assent. In their philosophy, assent is the moment you agree with an initial impression, the point where you give your internal stamp of approval to a judgment about the world. This tool is the mind's gatekeeper, a conscious practice of pausing before you endorse any reactive thought that enters your awareness. Its purpose is to intercept the automatic spirals of negativity or worry before they can take root and steal your focus. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered clear guidance on this, advising his students to not be carried away by the vividness of the impression, but to say to it, wait, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test. This is the essence of the discipline, to treat every strong impression not as a command, but as a visitor at the gate, requiring inspection before it is allowed entry. Consider the moment you receive a piece of critical feedback, perhaps in a performance review or from a friend. The immediate, raw impression that flashes through your mind might be a thought like, "I am not succeeding," or "They do not see the value in my work." That impression arrives with a surge of feeling, a sensation that seems to confirm its truth. The undisciplined mind immediately assents, it agrees wholeheartedly. "I am not succeeding," it declares, and from that single point of agreement, an entire story unfolds, leading to a defensive posture, a sense of disappointment, or a desire to pull back. The practice of withholding assent changes everything. When that initial impression arrives, you consciously create a pause. You do not agree, you do not disagree. You simply notice the thought, "I am having the impression that I am not succeeding." Then, from that small space of awareness, you begin the examination. You put the impression to the test. Is this thought based on the totality of my work, or on this single piece of feedback? Is this person's perspective the only one that matters? Does this specific observation define my entire worth? By questioning it, you often find the initial impression is a broad oversimplification, a story built on a sliver of truth. You are then free to assent to a more accurate, more nuanced judgment, such as, "This is one area I can improve, and it does not negate my other strengths." This gatekeeping practice transforms your inner world from a reactive echo chamber into a thoughtful council chamber, where every claim must be heard and examined before it shapes your reality. That gatekeeper in your mind needs training, a way to build its strength so it can hold the gate against more powerful impressions. The Stoics had a surprising method for this, a form of mental strength training that runs directly counter to our modern instinct for constant comfort. This is the eighth tool, voluntary discomfort. It is the deliberate, occasional choice to experience mild hardship, not as a punishment, but as a way to build immunity against the fear of future uncertainty. The philosopher Seneca wrote letters advising his friend to practice simplicity. "Set aside a certain number of days," he suggested, "during which you shall be content with the most basic and affordable fare." Do this, he said, to learn that a person's peace of mind does not come from external abundance, but from an inner sufficiency. The goal is not to live in lack, but to prove to yourself that you can. It gently dissolves the illusion that your well-being is held hostage by perfect conditions. In our world of endless convenience, the very idea can feel alien. Why would anyone choose discomfort? The answer lies in what it builds: resilience. When you voluntarily step into a small challenge, you are rehearsing for the unexpected ones that life will inevitably send your way. You are teaching your nervous system that a cool breeze, slight hunger, or temporary fatigue are not emergencies, but manageable sensations. You are building a reference point, a memory of having persisted and even thrived despite a minor lack. This practice dramatically reduces the background anxiety of what if things change, because you know from direct experience that you can handle more than you think. For a simple, safe modern application, consider the next time the weather is mildly unpleasant, a light rain or a cool wind. Instead of rushing inside, choose to take a 10-minute walk in it. Do not bundle up excessively, just go. As you walk, do not fight the sensation, observe it, feel the cool air on your skin, notice your breath in the air. The practice is to experience the feeling without the internal narrative of complaint. You are not a victim of the weather, you are a participant in it. When you return, the ordinary warmth of your home will feel like a profound gift, not an automatic expectation. That shift from assumption to gratitude is a direct result of the voluntary choice. You have just proven your independence from a specific external condition, and that proof creates a deep, quiet confidence that no forecast can shake. Our voluntary discomfort builds a fortress of self-reliance, but we do not live in the fortress alone. We share this world with other people whose actions can sometimes challenge our sense of peace and focus. The ninth tool addresses this directly, and it asks us to make a radical shift in perspective. It is called Sympatheia, the recognition of our profound interconnectedness. This is the Stoic practice of cultivating empathy not as a moral luxury, but as a practical tool for easing frustration and reclaiming the mental energy we can spend on other things. When someone moves quickly in traffic or speaks in a way that feels dismissive, the immediate reaction can feel personal. We might think they did this to us, that they are the problem. Sympatheia interrupts that story. It asks you to see the other person not as an antagonist in your personal drama, but as a fellow human being, navigating their own challenges and acting from their own perspective. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this in his private writings. He wrote, "When people act in a way that bothers you, always ask yourself, what understanding led them to do that? And when you see that, you will feel a sense of connection rather than surprise or annoyance. For you yourself still often reconsider what is best or are uncertain about it." He saw our shared humanity as a bond, not a barrier. We are all, in his words, fellow citizens of the same world. To practice this, consider a recent minor irritation. Imagine the person who caused it not as a simple symbol of rudeness, but as a full human being. That driver might be navigating a difficult personal situation, or is so preoccupied with a concern they are not fully present. The colleague with a certain tone might be carrying a weight of pressure you know nothing about, or is simply using a communication style learned long ago. This is not about excusing poor behavior. It is about understanding its origin, which is almost never a focused plan to disrupt you. By seeing the action as a reflection of their inner experience rather than a statement on your own, you perform a kind of emotional shift. The initial heat of annoyance cools into a more manageable feeling of perspective. Your focus, which was just captured by a story of conflict, is released. You are free to return your attention to your own path, your own work, your own calm. This tool transforms the world from a ground of separate struggles into a shared, if sometimes complicated, journey. A nightly ritual can transform the blur of the day into a map for tomorrow. This is the power of the evening review, our 10th tool. While journaling is a broader practice of reflection, the evening review is a structured audit, a focused closing ceremony for your day. It is not about listing events but examining your internal governance. The Stoic philosopher Seneca was a dedicated practitioner, ending each day with a pointed self-examination. He described it as asking his own spirit, what progress have you made today? What challenge have you navigated? In what way are you moving forward? His goal was not self-punishment but calibration. To practice this yourself, set aside just 10 minutes before sleep. In the quiet, ask 3 specific questions. First, where did I act in accordance with my values today? Look for the small alignments. Did you show patience when you felt rushed? Offer kindness without expectation. Complete a task with integrity even when no one was watching. Acknowledge these moments, for they strengthen the pathways of your character. Second, and this requires gentle honesty, where did a strong feeling overrule my better judgment? Where did frustration, anxiety, or a craving for distraction pull you away from your focus? Do not judge the feeling, simply note the instance. Perhaps you spoke hastily to a family member over a minor issue, or spent an hour scrolling when you intended to work. Name the trigger and the reaction. Third, what is the single lesson I can carry into tomorrow? Based on this review, what one adjustment would make the biggest difference? It might be as simple as, when I feel overwhelmed, I will take 3 deep breaths before responding, or I will silence my notifications for the first hour of work. This process does not dwell on what went wrong, it extracts wisdom. By conducting this nightly audit for just 1 week, you begin to see patterns in your reactions. You start to predict your own triggers, and in that prediction lies the power to choose a different response next time. The evening review turns the closing of each day into the opening of a clearer, more focused tomorrow. Who do you call upon when your own judgment feels clouded? The 11th tool is an act of deliberate mental modeling, a way to borrow clarity from a source you trust. This is the contemplation of the sage. It is not about idolizing another person, but about using their example as a compass when your own inner compass feels scrambled by emotion. The Stoic philosopher Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to choose a model for his life, to keep him always before his eyes, as if he were watching you, and as if you were living with him. He spoke of keeping a person of good character as a guide. The practice is simple yet profound. You select a person, real or historical, whom you deeply admire for their composure, integrity, and wisdom under pressure. It could be a Stoic figure like Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, a modern mentor, or even a fictional character known for their steady presence. Then, in moments of rising stress or confusion, you pause and ask one powerful question. What would they do, or more importantly, what would they think in this situation? Imagine you are about to walk into a tense meeting where you anticipate disagreement. Your own mind might be buzzing with defensive arguments or anxious predictions. This is the moment to invoke your chosen sage. Close your eyes for just 10 seconds. Picture them in your mind not as a statue but as a living presence. Then ask, how would Marcus Aurelius approach this room? The answer that arises is rarely a specific script. It is more often a shift in attitude. He would enter with calm preparedness, not frantic worry. He would listen first, seeking to understand the other perspectives before defending his own. He would remember that the opinions of others do not define his character unless he permits them to. By asking the question, you are not pretending to be someone else. You are tapping into a reservoir of perspective that already exists within you, but is currently obscured by the immediacy of your feelings. You are reminding yourself of the person you are trying to become. This tool works because it creates a healthy distance from your own reactive self. It allows you to step outside the immediacy of the moment and consult a wiser, calmer version of your own potential. The next time you feel a disagreement arising in a conversation or a wave of frustration about a setback, try it. Name your sage and pose the question. The act itself interrupts the emotional spiral and guides your focus back toward a response rooted in principle, not just in passion. The sage you consult points toward a life lived with intention, but where does that intention truly come from? It comes from a clear understanding of what matters, and nothing clarifies our priorities quite like a gentle awareness of our own limits. The 12th tool is the most direct of all, a meditation that has been misunderstood for centuries. It is called Memento Mori, remember you must transition. This is not a fixation on an ending, but a profound practice for energizing a beginning. It is the ultimate lens for cutting through distraction and focusing on what is essential right now. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced immense pressure and responsibility every day, used this thought to ground himself. He wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not suggesting a life of frantic activity, but one of deep alignment. If this hour, this conversation, this task were among your last, how would its quality change? Would you spend it worrying about a minor slight or refreshing a social media feed? Or would you engage with a presence and care that honors the fleeting gift of the moment? This practice strips away the false urgency of the trivial and reveals the true urgency of the meaningful. It asks a simple, piercing question. Is this how I want to spend a piece of a life that will not last forever? For a modern and gentle application, choose a subtle, personal reminder. It could be the image of an hourglass on your phone's lock screen, a smooth stone you keep on your desk, or even the deliberate act of pausing when you hear a clock chime. Let this object or moment serve not as a symbol of fear, but as a prompt for a brief, grounding reflection. When you see it, ask yourself, does what I am doing right now reflect my deepest values? Am I giving my focus to something that nourishes me or contributes to others? or am I lost in a distraction that will leave no trace? This practice does not fill your day with heavy thoughts, it fills it with conscious choice. It turns the abstract nature of our shared journey into a practical tool for daily focus, reminding you that your attention is the most precious currency you have, and it is spent minute by minute, whether you are aware of it or not. The reserve clause is a simple phrase that can transform your relationship with ambition. It is the 13th tool, and it teaches you how to pursue goals with full effort while releasing your grip on the specific outcome. In Stoic terms, this is the practice of adding the words fate permitting to every plan you make. It is not a statement of doubt, but an acknowledgement of reality, a mental addendum that honors the vast web of factors outside your control. This tool is a direct application of the very first principle we discussed, the dichotomy of control. You control your preparation, your research, your practice, your attitude. You do not control the final result, the reactions of others, or the unforeseen events that may arise. The reserve clause builds a bridge between these two realms, allowing you to cross from intention to action without carrying the heavy burden of expectation. Imagine you have spent weeks preparing for a major presentation. You have rehearsed your points, designed clear slides, and anticipated questions. You are ready. The standard approach is to fixate on a single desired outcome, a flawless delivery that leads to immediate approval and success. But this mindset sets a trap. If your laptop malfunctions or a key audience member seems distracted, your entire sense of accomplishment can crumble into frustration. The reserve clause changes your internal script. As you prepare, you consciously add the silent clause. I will deliver this presentation to the best of my ability, fate permitting. The technology will work, fate permitting. The audience will be engaged, fate permitting. This does not diminish your effort, it protects it. Your focus remains locked on the quality of your work, the one thing you truly command. The outcome, whatever it may be, becomes information, not a verdict on your worth. When you internalize this clause, something subtle shifts. You stop seeing a deviation from your plan as a personal failure. The presentation that faced technical difficulties becomes a lesson in adaptability. The meeting that took an unexpected turn becomes an exercise in listening. Your energy is no longer consumed by fighting reality, but is freed to work creatively within it. The reserve clause is the art of holding your plans lightly, with an open hand, so you are ready to catch whatever life throws your way and continue moving forward. The stories we tell ourselves about events are often more painful than the events themselves. This brings us to our 14th tool, a practice of linguistic clarity called objective description. Its instruction is disarmingly simple: strip the story, state the facts. When something upsets us, our minds instinctively layer on interpretation, judgment, and prediction. We do not just see a delayed train, we see a conspiracy to ruin our day. We do not just hear a piece of feedback, we hear a verdict on our entire competence. Objective description is the practice of pulling those layers away, describing the situation in plain, observable language, completely devoid of emotional labels or catastrophic predictions. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this discipline, writing that we must perceive the true nature of each thing, to see it as it is in its substance, stripped bare of the story we wrap around it. He knew that our power lies not in the raw event, but in the narrative we construct upon it, and that narrative is where we can choose to intervene. Let us apply this to a common workplace stressor. The emotional, story-laden version might sound like this in your head. My manager just gave very critical feedback on my entire report during the team meeting. He seems very dissatisfied with my work, and this creates concern about my role. This narrative is intense, triggering feelings of frustration and worry about stability. It consumes your focus completely. Now, practice objective description. Strip away the judgment, the mind reading, the future prediction. State only the observable facts. The facts are, my manager said the quarterly report needs revisions before the Friday deadline. He pointed out 3 specific sections that require more supporting data. That is it. No destruction, no humiliation, no deeper animosity, no future changes. Just a set of factual statements about a work task. The emotional charge, which felt so overwhelming moments before, often begins to dissipate when exposed to the clear light of simple fact. The problem has not disappeared, but it has been transformed from a sprawling personal crisis into a contained, manageable project. Your focus, which was just occupied by a story of professional difficulty, is now freed to address the actual task, gathering the needed data for those 3 sections. This tool does not ask you to ignore your feelings, it asks you to examine the thoughts that created them. By describing the world as it is, not as your worries interpret it, you reclaim the mental space needed to respond effectively, rather than react emotionally. Your most powerful response may be to say nothing at all. This is the 15th tool, the art of silence, a strategic pause weaponized for inner peace. In a world that constantly demands our reaction, the Stoics understood that our words, especially those spoken in haste or heat, often become our own worst enemies. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on the value of quiet listening. He observed that speech is the index of the mind, and that by listening we often learn more about a person's character than by any other means. For the Stoic, silence is not a passive absence but an active choice. It is a space you create to let the dust of emotion settle, to gather information, and to prevent the kind of regretful words that can linger in your thoughts long after the moment has passed. Think of a recent conversation where tensions began to rise. The instinct is to defend, to explain, to counter the point immediately. Each word can add fuel, turning a small spark of disagreement into a full blaze of argument. The art of silence asks you to do the opposite. When you feel that defensive surge, when you sense your own voice rising in pitch or sharpness, you enact a simple, practical rule. You impose a mandatory 5-second pause before you speak. In those 5 seconds of deliberate quiet, you are not just waiting, you are working. You use that precious sliver of time to apply the tools we have already gathered. You practice cognitive distancing, noticing the thought, I am having the impression that I am being challenged. You might invoke the view from above, seeing this small conflict in the grand scheme of your life. You can even ask the sage what they would do. This pause transforms the conversation. It allows the other person's words to fully land, and in that landing, you might hear the concern behind the criticism or the worry behind the frustration. Your response, when it finally comes, is no longer a reactive missile but a considered bridge. It might be a clarifying question, a simple acknowledgement of their point, or a calm restatement of your own position. The silence itself becomes a form of communication, one that conveys composure and respect. By mastering this art, you protect your inner peace from the turbulence of unnecessary conflict, and you conserve immense mental energy otherwise spent on cleaning up conversational messes. Your focus remains intact, directed not by the heat of the moment, but by the clarity you cultivated in those 5 seconds of quiet power. The silence you create is a space for clear seeing, and what you begin to see more clearly are the things you once believed defined you. This leads us to the 16th tool, a concept often misunderstood but incredibly liberating, called practicing indifference to indifference. The word indifference here does not mean apathy or a cold lack of care. In Stoic philosophy, an indifferent is something that is neither inherently good nor bad. These are the external conditions of life, like our health, our wealth, our reputation, or our social standing. They are called indifferents because their moral value is neutral. What gives them meaning is not their presence or absence, but how we choose to use them. A large sum of money is indifferent. It can fund a charitable project or fuel a destructive habit. A strong social media following is indifferent. It can spread a positive message or become a source of vanity and anxiety. The Stoic teacher Epictetus drew a sharp line to clarify this. He said some things are up to us and some are not up to us. Our opinions, our aims, our desires, our aversions, these are up to us. Our bodies, our possessions, our reputations, our public offices are not up to us. This tool asks you to mentally reclassify the things you chase or fear. It is the practice of seeing external outcomes as potential material for your character, not as the final score of your life. When you view a promotion, a compliment, or a material possession as an indifferent, you strip it of its power to dictate your happiness. You can still prefer to have it. You can still work toward it with excellence, but your sense of worth and peace is no longer chained to the result. Your focus shifts from the trophy to the quality of the effort. Think of the modern engagement with social media metrics. The number of likes or followers is a classic indifferent. Chasing it as a measure of self-worth is a recipe for constant anxiety, with your mood fluctuating with every notification. Practicing indifference to it means you see those metrics as tools. They are data points about reach, perhaps useful for a project, but they say nothing about your inherent value. You can then engage with the platform intentionally, perhaps to share meaningful ideas or connect with a community, without handing over your inner stability to the approval of an algorithm. This mindset creates a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer waiting at the table of external validation, hoping for a seat. You become the host of your own inner feast, where the main course is the integrity of your own actions, and the external world simply provides the ingredients. The path of indifference leads us directly into the heart of the challenge itself. A true Stoic does not merely endure obstacles, they learn to welcome them. This is the 17th tool, a principle so powerful it has become a modern mantra: the obstacle is the way. This is not a passive acceptance of hardship, but an active cognitive reframing technique that searches for the hidden opportunity for growth, strength, or a new direction within every single setback. Marcus Aurelius, who faced endless political and military challenges, wrote in his personal meditations that our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions. He went further, stating that what stands in the way becomes the way. He saw each impediment as a necessary part of the work, a force that, when met with the right mindset, actually advances the very progress it seems to block. Think of a river encountering a boulder. The water does not stop and lament the rock. It flows around it, and in doing so, carves a new path, creates swirling patterns, and gains a new direction. The obstacle literally becomes the course of the river. Your own challenges operate on the same principle. That difficult project you have been assigned is not just a burden, it is a forge for your problem-solving skills and patience. That period of professional uncertainty is not just a source of tension, it is a classroom for adaptability and clarifying what you truly want. The obstacle presents the exact training your character needs next. To make this practical right now, take one current obstacle in your life. It does not have to be monumental, perhaps a strained work relationship, a financial pinch, or a personal goal that feels out of reach. Now actively brainstorm 3 specific ways this very situation could be used to develop a skill or a virtue. If it is the strained relationship, it becomes your training ground for the virtue of patience, the skill of compassionate communication, or the practice of setting clear boundaries. If it is the financial pinch, it becomes your masterclass in resourcefulness, creativity, and distinguishing between wants and true needs. By forcing yourself to generate these positive uses, you perform a mental alchemy. You stop seeing the obstacle as a wall and start seeing it as the raw material for building a stronger, wiser version of yourself. Your focus shifts from what is being blocked to what is being built. Our deepest desires can feel like the very engine of our lives, but what if that engine is burning a fuel of endless wanting? The 18th tool is the Discipline of Desire, and it offers a map to a different kind of fuel, one of genuine contentment. This is not about suppressing what you want, but about learning to want the right things. The Stoics define the right thing as virtue, the excellence of your own character, and the things that are truly within your power. Everything else, from a perfect outcome to universal praise, is a preference at best, and at worst, a master that holds your peace of mind hostage. Epictetus drew a stark line here, warning that if you desire any of the things not within your own control, you are bound to be disappointed. He saw unexamined desire as a form of confinement, where your happiness is forever dependent on external events aligning perfectly with your wishes. The modern echo of this is the relentless fear of missing out, often called FOMO. It is the gnawing sense that somewhere, someone else is having a better experience, building a more impressive career, or living a more exciting life. This is not a simple preference, it is a passion in the Stoic sense, a storm of wanting that pulls your focus from your own path and scatters it across 1,000 imagined alternatives. The Discipline of Desire asks you to pause that storm and perform a quiet audit. What do I truly desire right now? Is it something within my control, like my effort, my attitude, my integrity? Or is it something outside it, like a specific reaction, a particular result, an experience I cannot guarantee? When you feel the tug of that fear of missing out, the practice is to deliberately desire the opposite. Instead of desiring to be at every exciting event, practice desiring to be fully, deeply present exactly where you are. Instead of craving a different set of circumstances, cultivate a desire to find the value and the opportunity in the circumstances you already have. This realignment of desire is a profound act of focus reclamation. It turns your gaze inward to the cultivation of your own garden rather than outward, to a frantic comparison of every other plot of land. You stop chasing the phantom of a perfect life and start building a meaningful one, brick by intentional brick, with the materials already in your hands. That quiet garden of your own making is tended with a resource more precious than any other. Our 19th tool is a direct conversation with the most common thief of our focus, and it is called the shortness of life argument. This is not a heavy thought, but a clarifying one drawn from Seneca's powerful essay on the shortness of life. He opens with a striking observation, stating that life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. The challenge, he suggests, is not that we have a short time, but that we let much of it slip away. We are not living, but merely preparing to live, endlessly deferring what matters to a future that may never arrive in the way we imagine. This tool asks you to hold the precious nature of time in your mind, not as a source of worry, but as a lens for immediate clarity. When you vividly understand that this hour, this day, this week is a segment of your irreplaceable allotment, the choice of how to spend it sharpens into focus. The distractions that once seemed so compelling, the procrastination that felt so comfortable, begin to lose their grip. They are revealed for what they are, small withdrawals from a limited treasury. For a practical and gentle application, set aside 20 minutes at the end of your week. Open your calendar not to schedule more, but to review what has already passed. Look at each block of time, the meetings, the commutes, the evenings at home. For each significant segment, ask yourself one simple, meaningful question. Was this time spent in alignment with my core values, or was it redirected by trivial reactions and mindless distractions? Be honest but not harsh. The goal is not to tally shortcomings but to gather insight. You might see that 2 hours you planned for a creative project were instead consumed by scrolling through news feeds after a single frustrating email. You might notice that an evening you intended for connection was fragmented by a dozen small notifications. This review is not about regret, it is about awareness. It shows you in the concrete language of your own lived hours, where your focus is being gently pulled from the life you say you want to build. By conducting this weekly reflection, you begin to close the gap between intention and action. You start to tend your time with the same conscious care you would give any precious, finite resource. The nature of our days, when contemplated not with anxiety but with respect, becomes the very reason to begin living with purpose right now. Nature is not just the trees and the sky, it is the operating system of the universe, and it includes the very logic of your own mind. This brings us to the 20th tool, modeling nature, or living in accordance with nature. For the Stoics, nature had a dual meaning. It was both the rational principle woven into the cosmos and the unique gift of reason given to human beings. To live according to nature meant to align your personal will with this greater rational flow, to use your reason to understand and accept the way things are, rather than raging against them. This alignment is the ultimate source of inner peace because it ends the exhausting war between your expectations and reality. Marcus Aurelius often returned to this thought for strength, writing in his private journal, "Accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe." The whole is harmonious. He saw each event, even the difficult ones, as a necessary thread in a vast, rational tapestry. Applying this tool means learning to distinguish between what is a natural part of life's cycle and what is truly an unnatural disruption. The changing of seasons is natural. Aging is a natural process. Shifts in your career or relationships are natural expressions of growth and time. Our distress often arises not from these events themselves, but from our refusal to accept their inherent place in the natural order. We fight the autumn because we love the summer. We resent new responsibilities because we cling to an earlier, simpler phase of life. This futile resistance is a massive drain on our mental energy, a constant friction against the grain of reality. To model nature is to observe these cycles with the calm eye of a naturalist. When you face an inevitable change, instead of immediately reacting with frustration or sadness, pause. Ask, is this part of a natural flow? Is this the logical outcome of previous choices or the simple passage of time? Seeing it as natural does not mean you have to like it, but it allows you to meet it with grace rather than shock. You conserve the energy you would have spent on denial and redirect it toward adaptation. You become like a tree in the wind, bending with the force rather than breaking from rigidity, because bending is in its nature. This conscious alignment turns life's inevitable transitions from sources of inner conflict into opportunities for graceful participation in something much larger than yourself. A rational mind aligned with nature still needs a moment to engage its gears. The 21st tool is that moment, a physical anchor in a sea of reaction. It is called the pause of the sage, a micro-practice of immediate self-command. This is the discipline of assent made visible in your body, a conscious decision to create a buffer zone between the spark of an event and the flame of your response. The Stoics knew that our first, raw impression arrives with a force that feels like truth. The pause of the sage is your way of saying, "Not so fast." It is a deliberate, tangible interruption, a small ritual that wrests control back from the automatic pilot of emotion. You do not need a quiet room or a special meditation cushion. You only need the intention to insert a beat of silence where one did not exist before. When a challenging email arrives, when a comment lands with a sting, when plans suddenly unravel, your first move is not to speak, not to type, not to act. Your first move is to pause, make it physical, take one slow, deep breath, feeling your feet on the floor. Take a deliberate sip of water, stand up and look out a window for 3 seconds. This tiny act is a signal to your entire nervous system. It declares that what happens next is a choice, not a reflex. To strengthen this pause, give your rational mind a simple phrase to hold. As you breathe, silently repeat a mantra like "This is an impression, not yet a truth," or "I have a choice here." This verbal hook engages the prefrontal cortex, the part of you capable of reason and perspective, before the older, reactive parts of the brain can take over the conversation. Imagine you are about to send a sharply worded reply to a colleague's message. Your fingers are on the keys, the heat of frustration is rising. This is the critical juncture. You enact the pause, you lean back, you take that one deep breath, and you hear the internal whisper, "This is an impression, not yet a truth." In that expanded space, other possibilities emerge. You might choose to close the email and revisit it in an hour, or draft a response focused on the project rather than the person. The situation has not changed, but your relationship to it has fundamentally shifted. You have moved from being a reactor to becoming an observer with agency. This tiny, powerful gap is where your focus is reclaimed, one conscious breath at a time. That pause is the first stone in a much larger structure. The 20-second tool is the deliberate construction of an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind built not from stone but from practiced principle. This powerful metaphor comes directly from the writings of Marcus Aurelius, who envisioned a self so grounded in reason and virtue that no external event could ever storm its gates and disturb the peace within. Your citadel is not a place of isolation but a sanctuary of sovereignty. It is the cumulative result of using every tool we have discussed so far, each one adding a layer of strength, a clearer view from the watchtower. The dichotomy of control forms its foundation, the view from above provides its strategic perspective, and the daily disciplines of assent and desire are the practiced drills of its steadfast garrison. This is not about becoming emotionally numb or detached from the world. It is about developing such a resilient core that you can engage fully with life's turbulence without being capsized by it. The activity of the outside world continues, but within your citadel, you have a quiet command center from which to observe, understand, and choose your response. To make this concept tangible, take a moment to visualize your own inner fortress. What does it look like in your mind's eye? Perhaps it is a serene stone tower on a cliff, a quiet library at the center of a bustling city, or a simple, well-lit room with a strong door. This is your psychological home base. Now, with that image clear, ask yourself a revealing question. Which of your current reactions or worries represent openings in its walls? Where is the noise of the outside world currently finding a way in? It might be that specific colleague's tone of voice that instantly raises your attention, or the concern you feel when reviewing your finances, or the pull to seek constant updates when you feel unsettled. Identifying these openings is not a failure, it is vital intelligence. It shows you exactly where your citadel could use more attention, which specific tool you may need to practice more diligently. Perhaps that opening calls for the art of silence to guard the gate of your speech, or the discipline of desire to reinforce your contentment. Building this inner stronghold is the work of a lifetime, but every time you choose a reasoned response over a reactive one, you are laying another stone, making your peace a little more enduring. Your personal struggle is not a unique script, but a variation on a theme written countless times across human history. This is the 23rd tool, the universal perspective, and while it shares a kinship with the view from above, its focus is not cosmic but profoundly human. It asks you to see your experience not as an isolated event, but as part of a vast, shared story. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this thought to dissolve his own sense of isolation. He would write in his private journal, "Let this thought be always at hand, that this is no different from what happens in the gymnasium, or on a voyage, or on a walk." He saw the same patterns of frustration, ambition, joy, and transition playing out in every age and culture. When you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, or begin to sink into a sense of self-pity, this tool offers a lifeline of connection. It asks you to reflect on the simple, humbling truth that what you are facing, someone else has faced before, and someone will face again. This is not meant to minimize your personal experience, but to contextualize it within the shared human condition, a condition marked by effort, uncertainty, and the search for meaning. To apply it, think of a current difficulty that feels particularly personal, perhaps a professional setback or a period of solitude. Now consciously expand your view. Consider the countless individuals throughout time who have navigated similar terrain, the artists who faced rejection, the leaders who endured criticism, the parents who held concern for their children, the dreamers who wondered if their efforts mattered. Your specific circumstances are yours, but the emotional contours of the experience are a common language spoken by millions. This realization has a gentle, grounding power. It reduces the isolating narrative of "why is this happening to me?" and replaces it with the connecting thought of "this, too, is part of the human journey." It fosters a quiet solidarity that can soften the edges of difficulty and bring a calm clarity, reminding you that you are not walking this path alone, but as part of a grand, enduring procession. Complaint is a reflex, a background hum we often fail to even notice. Gratitude, in contrast, is a discipline. This 24th tool, practicing gratitude as a discipline, asks you to treat thankfulness not as a fleeting emotion that visits when things go your way, but as a deliberate act of mental training, a daily recalibration of your focus from what is missing to what is already present and good. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on this theme, urging his readers to appreciate what they possessed. He observed that we often treat our own advantages as ordinary and overlook them while coveting what belongs to others. He advised making a regular inventory of your blessings to see how much you would be willing to pay for the things you already have if they were taken away. This is not about ignoring hardship, but about building a foundation of sufficiency so strong that difficulty cannot topple your entire perspective. The practice begins with the most fundamental layer of your existence. Each morning, before the day's demands scatter your attention, take just 60 seconds. Mentally list 3 very basic, often overlooked things you are grateful for. Do not reach for the grand or abstract. Anchor yourself in the tangible and immediate. You might be grateful for the shelter of a roof, for the simple ability to draw a breath of clean air, for the warmth of a blanket, for the gift of sight that allows you to see the morning light, or for the incredible fact that you possess a mind capable of learning, questioning, and creating meaning. This is not a checklist of achievements. It is a grounding in the raw materials of being alive. By starting your day with this conscious acknowledgement, you perform a subtle but powerful shift. You move from a default state of wanting, of scanning the horizon for what comes next, to a state of recognizing what is already here. This cultivated sense of sufficiency becomes a shield against the feeling that you deserve more, better, easier, right now. It does not make you complacent. Instead, it fuels your efforts from a place of abundance rather than lack. Your focus, no longer diluted by a background static of complaint, becomes clearer, more attuned to the possibilities within the reality you have, not the one you wish for. The final tool is not a technique, but a permission slip you grant yourself for the rest of your life. Lapses are guaranteed, but defeat is entirely optional. The entire Stoic journey, with all its 24 previous tools, is not a staircase to a state of perfect, unbroken calm. It is a path you walk, and you will sometimes wander from it. The true measure of your progress is not in never stumbling, but in how quickly and how kindly you guide yourself back. This is the 25th and ultimate tool, the perpetual choice to begin again. The philosopher Epictetus, who taught from a place of deep understanding of our shared human experience, framed it beautifully. He said, "For no one can keep you from living in harmony with your own reason, and nothing can happen to you that is contrary to the natural order." The obstacle is not outside you, but within you, in your own judgments. And when a situation brings difficulty, it is not the thing itself that is the source, but your perspective about it. And you have the power to shift that perspective at any moment. That power to shift, to reset, is the essence of this final principle. Imagine you have been practicing the art of silence, successfully pausing before reactive speech for several days. Then, in a moment of fatigue, you speak sharply to a family member over something minor. An old pattern of thought rushes in, a voice that suggests you have not changed at all. This is the important juncture. The Stoic response is not to agree with that voice, but to observe it with the same gentle distance you have been practicing. You note the lapse without weaving a story of permanent setback around it. You might say to yourself, I reacted automatically there. The tool of the pause was forgotten. And then, in that very acknowledgement, you exercise the final tool. You consciously choose the next breath, the next sentence, the next interaction as a fresh starting point. You do not have to wait for tomorrow or for a more ideal moment. Your next clear thought is the new beginning. This is how the path is walked, not in a straight, unwavering line, but in a series of conscious returns. Each time you choose to begin again, you are not starting over from nothing. You are reinforcing the pathway of self-awareness itself, making the return trip a little quicker, a little easier each time. Your focus, then, is not fixed on a distant finish line of perfect composure. It is gently directed again and again to the ever-present opportunity of this single, manageable moment. And that is where your true power has always resided. This collection of tools is not a checklist to be completed, but a living toolkit to be visited again and again. Each one reinforces the others, building a resilient architecture for your mind where focus and peace are no longer accidents, but the natural result of conscious design. The core theme we have walked through is this: reclaiming agency over your automatic reactions is the single most direct path to reclaiming the focus that feels so scarce. It is the difference between being a leaf blown by every wind and being the tree, rooted and steady, that observes the weather without breaking. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius left us a final, empowering thought on this inner freedom. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That strength is not a distant promise. It is the quiet certainty you build each time you choose a tool from this ancient kit." To begin weaving this philosophy into the fabric of your days, do not try to master all 25 at once. That is a path to feeling overwhelmed. Instead, look back and identify just 2 or 3 that resonated most deeply with you this time. Perhaps it is the simple power of the dichotomy of control to sort your concerns, or the calming perspective of the view from above. Maybe it is the practical resilience of preparing for challenges, or the nightly clarity of the evening review. Choose your starting points and commit to practicing them consciously for just the next 7 days. Notice the subtle shifts in your reactions, the moments of regained focus, the pockets of peace you create. We would love to hear which tool you are choosing to try first. Sharing your commitment in the comments below not only holds you accountable, but helps build a community of people all walking this same practical path toward a calmer, more focused life. If you found this guidance valuable and want more ways to apply this wisdom to modern challenges, consider subscribing. Together, we can continue turning ancient philosophy into daily practice.